And welcome to the Midday Show. I am Jeff Everett. He is Mark Messina. And we've had a heck of a week. We had on Jason Fitzgerald on Tuesday to talk politics with us. We had on the owner of Leo's Pizza on Wednesday to help us celebrate National Pizza Day. Yesterday, we had some of our counterparts at NorthcentralPa.com come on to preview the Super Bowl and some prop bets with us. So I am excited because I'm sure you're itching. Is that the least you've spoken throughout the week on a show?
I was just going to say we're out of friends. That we run them all through in 3 days, and now we're back to just talking to ourselves.
Well, I'm excited because you're going to get to talk a little bit. I'm going to get to talk a little bit. We're finally going to get to talk about some of the stuff that's bugging us. Before we get to some of the stuff, and I think you're going to lead into maybe our first topic here. How are you feeling today?
Well, no, I'm going in a different angle today. I saw the temperature; it's supposed to get to 50 today.
Okay.
So I was pumped. So I broke out short sleeves, as you can see. I'm ready. I'm walking around in short sleeves, but like I get in the office, it's not all that warm in here. So I'm going to try to get through the show in my short sleeves, but the jacket may go on mid-show because I kind of miscalculated.
Just put on the Dorset jersey behind you. Those sleeves are a little longer.
A little bit. That's only for special occasions.
You had brought up telemarketers at the beginning of the show when we were talking behind the scenes. I actually pulled up some telemarketer statistics, and some of them are actually pretty interesting. Like I wouldn't have guessed them. But real quick, go ahead and give I don't know if you have a story for us. I'm not sure how this came into your mind, but tell us about telemarketers.
Well, this just happened today, and this is something that's been going through my mind. And in the winter, when it snows and you get snowblowers out, and we have a neighbor somewhere, I don't know where, but we have a neighbor who lets their dog out really early in the morning and doesn't take their dog out and just lets the dog out. And the dog goes out and barks incessantly for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whoever, until the person brings the dog back in. And then this morning, it was 8:15. And I had to meet a client at 9. So the phone rang. So I immediately thought the client was either running late or had to cancel or something like that. And I picked it up, and it was a telemarketer. And I was just immediately annoyed. And I looked at the clock, and I'm like, am I wrong here? And I answered it, and he gave me some spiel. And I said, what company are you with? And he told me. And I said, you do realize it's 8:15, right? And the guy's like, oh, is this too early for you? And then I just hung up because that's what you do to telemarketers. And it was like I was already showered and dressed because I was ready to go. It's not like he woke me. But is there a social etiquette to things? Not just telemarketing is more business, but in the neighborhood, snow blowing. Is there too late? Is there too early? Just letting your dog out to bark like a maniac. Is there too late? Is there too early? Where do we sit on this as a society? That's what I want to know.
It's a good question. So here, before we move on, because I think we should go through a lot of these. I'm fascinated. I've never had this conversation before. And I've noticed when you first brought it up, in my mind, I have these constructs of times, but I just made them up. Like there's no reason that I've decided that these times are like the basic etiquette of the situation. So we're going to go through that. Some telemarketer statistics for you. There are over 120,000 telemarketers currently employed in the United States. Clearly throughout the world, there are much, much more. Do you want to guess how many telemarketers are men versus how many telemarketers are women?
Huh. All right, now I'm trying to come up with a theory one way or the other. I would suspect that it's more women than men. I'm going to say women by 2-1.
You're pretty good. 61.8% of telemarketers are women. Men are 33.4%. Do you want to guess the average age?
Wait, what was that again? Give me those numbers.
61.8% are women, 33.4% are men.
We're missing like 5% then. 5% are canines?
5% maybe don't identify. Maybe they don't fill out their paperwork. Who knows? Are you really that concerned about the 5%?
I was just wondering, when you have men and women, and they should add up to 100, and it threw me off.
Well, it didn't. Polls aren't perfect. The other one, do you want to guess the average age of a telemarketer?
Okay, I'm either thinking my initial thought is really young.
Okay.
But then you throw in a couple old ones and it balances it out. I could almost say the average age is somewhere in the middle, but I think that there aren't very many in the middle. I would say that they're either really young or really old, and it's so it averages out.
My favorite thing about you, and then I'm going to tell you the answer. My favorite thing about
Hold
you
on,
is
I didn't know you
will.
had one. I'm excited for this.
Yes, I will bring I'll bring a fascinating topic to you, and I will lay it all out, and I'll be like, yeah, this study, da 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 da, and I'll lay out like this beautiful portrait for 5 minutes, and at the end of it, you'll be like, yeah, I agree, and that's all the time. I ask you about the average age of a telemarketer, and you took it as if it was the most important question I have ever asked you on this show. And that's my favorite thing about you. The average age of an employed telemarketer is 37 years old.
So I'm right. I think I'm right.
There you go. As far as the etiquette and the timing of things, I've always, I don't know why. Maybe it's just like, I don't like, it's not a 9 to 5 or an 8 to 4. I've always thought if you don't know the person, right? If they're not somebody that you work with or not somebody you know, things like that, you shouldn't call them before 8 a.m. and you shouldn't call them after 9 p.m. I don't know why that is like the construct in my head, but that is what I've always gone with.
See, I have gone 9 to 9.
Okay, so you think 8's too early?
Yeah, just because it's like
some people start their
mornings
workday
are usually hectic. You're getting around. If you get kids, you're getting them around. You're trying to get people off to school. It's just, I don't know. I've just always said 9 to 9, but not like 8's ridiculous. But this morning I thought 8:15 was ridiculous.
What if you know the person?
Oh, then it's whatever.
Then there is no time.
In the modern world now, okay, no, we'll take this a step further. Is there any time, do you ever, because there's oftentimes you and I are both up late just because of the way we live. Is there ever a time you see something or you want to share something with your friend? Like I just sent you something the other day, and I think it was like 2:00 in the morning. Are you afraid that if people haven't really turned their phone off, you may wake them up with a text? I'm not talking a call, I'm talking a text.
Terrifying.
Or do you just text 24/7 whenever it strikes you?
No, oh no, I'm an awful texter. I'm like a batch I do most of my messaging and texting in like clumps, like 3 or 4 clumps during the day. And then I have these huge, vast moments where I don't text anything at all. But I am famous for this. I will see photos or links or videos or whatever that I want to share with people, and I will save all of them. And then at like 10 a.m. the next day, I'm just going through my phone folder and I'm just sending out everything I saw that I wanted to share with people.
So if you see something at 3:00 in the morning, you won't send it.
I save it. I take the time to save it, and then I'll usually send it the next day.
And that's now interesting.
If it's
because I've had people that I've texted them at some ridiculous time because just kind of knowing the person, and especially if I've never texted this, and I'm assuming they've shut their phone off or they've put it on whatever, and then they text me back at like 3:15, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm sorry I woke you, and they're like, yeah, it's not that big of a deal. So
it also depends, like, are they a degenerate like me? Are they in the same phase of their life like me? Like, one of the biggest adjustments, you'll get a kick out of this because you probably never went through this, but you'll be able to relate to this. One of my biggest adjustments in my like high school, college friend group, because we all ended up going and like living together in college and moved on. They all have kids now between the ages of like 0 and 3. Like, just everybody's hitting it and it's just happening. And I'm like one of the last ones that does not. And so I will hesitate. So I'll look at the clock and it'll be like 10:30 and I'll like hesitate and I'll be like, probably shouldn't send this. Like, what if the kid and like everything else? So I have had a real adjustment in the last like year and a half of like, holding off on sending random thoughts at like midnight because of kids and family. And so, yeah, it's a real thing.
Yeah. Okay. So let's take this to like snowblowers. Well, let's start with snow. Is that we used to have a neighbor who, and for whatever reason, it seems like storms come overnight. So is there a time that it's too late? Because I've been that guy who's out there in the dark. I want to do it tonight. I don't want to be stuck with it tomorrow morning. It's 10:30. It's, after 10 o'clock. Is it too late to snowblow after 10 o'clock?
I think it depends what you have. If you're snow blowing, it might be, but I think it depends what you have. I remember a lot of times like going out at 10, 10:30, 11 o'clock and shoveling with my dad because our driveway kind of slopes down. And so I remember a lot of times going out and like shoveling with him. I remember a lot of times like him like starting up his tractor and he had a plow in the front and he'd plowed out. Now he has a 4-wheeler with an attachment on the front and he plows it out. That's not so bad though. That's not like there's something about the consistency of the snow blower and the constant da 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 da. So I think it depends what you're using to do it. I would say if you're not using a snow blower, I would say like go at it. Like I don't know. I don't think it's that big of a deal. But I also grew up in a rural area, so maybe it's different too.
What about in the morning? We used to have a neighbor, and I'll start to answer my own question. We used to have a neighbor who had to be to work. I think he had to be to work at 6. He used to leave at like 5 something. So he's out snow blowing at 5 a.m. at like 4:45 a.m. And just in our neighborhood in town, like you heard it. And if you were awake and you heard it, and then I think what happened was I get the hum to it, like the sound machine, like the ocean waves. But when you hear it fire up at 4:45 and you're laying there, it's not a gentle hum. It's an anger that boils up in your head. And now you can't sleep because you want to shoot the neighbor.
I guess personally, I haven't experienced this. See, I think I always thought at night mattered more than in the morning. But it's funny for you, your experience, it's very different. The morning really mattered.
Yeah, really mattered. Yeah.
This is the other thing about
how many people in your life have you ever heard them say, I'm not a night person? Like nobody. They say, I'm not a morning person. You know why? Because mornings suck.
Here's what's funny about your approach to this so far is that you're more concerned with outside factors coming into the house. And I would argue that the etiquette from inside the house is way more important than the etiquette from outside of the house. So for example, I'm really big on like, I don't like to take phone calls when I know people are still sleeping in the house. Like if my phone rings at like 7:30, but I know like the next door over someone's sleeping or like I won't answer it because I think that's incredibly rude.
Well, how loud do you have to be on the phone?
I'm just saying people are louder on the phone than they realize. You never think you're loud on the phone until somebody else is talking on the phone.
Well, I get that, but weren't you ever a kid? Can't you whisper on the phone? You don't want your parents to hear?
You have to leave the office when you take a phone call. Like so you don't think if you take a phone call at 7:30 and Jimmy's in the room over, you don't think Jimmy's thinking to himself like, "Oh my God, get off the phone, get off the phone, get off the phone."
Well, no, but we're in the same. If I took a phone call now because I'm the only one here, I wouldn't leave the office.
Well,
but when someone else is sitting in the same room, but there's a difference between being in the room and being down the hall.
I disagree. See, that's what I said. We differ on this. I think the too late, too early conversation is way more important with the people in the property that you are in than people doing whatever they're doing outside. If someone wants to snowblow at 3 a.m, like it's your property, it's your world. Like, who am I to tell you what to do with your stuff? But like, if whoever at my house, like if someone goes out and is snowblowing at 7, I would be like, what are you doing? Like, I'm in here, what I'm doing. Like, so I think what happens inside of the house is way more important than what people are doing outside of it.
All right. How about
I would be way more upset. Like, for example, if I like back in the day, if someone called my sister at 7:30 in the morning and my sister answered the phone versus a telemarketer calling me at 7:30, I would be way more upset at my sister than the telemarketer, because the telemarketer doesn't know. Like, for all he knows, I've been up since 5. He has no idea. But my sister like has a feel of the land and understand what's happening.
So you just ruin your sister's social life because you sleep.
Listen, I might be doing her a favor if she's getting phone calls at 7:30 in the morning or at like 11:30 at night. I'm just saying.
Says the kid who grew up on a farm where 7:30 in the morning is like midday.
Grew up on a farm. You know, there's people now who really believe I grew up on a farm. They actually think, like, I've had people like, I didn't know you. They think I was like milking cows and like collecting eggs, and like they really think I grew up on a farm.
Milking cows doesn't mean you didn't grow up on a farm.
Oh my gosh. So anyway, is there any other like late or early tasks that you've thought about?
When you get up, and is it okay to just let your dog out knowing that your dog is going to bark incessantly, or should you take your dog out, let your dog do its thing, and then bring it back in for the sake of the neighbor? Because the gentle hum is different. A barking dog is different.
So this is what I would say, and this is what I personally do, and I'm not saying it's right or wrong. If it is like between 10 and like 8, I will usually go with the dog and wait with the dog. I will stand by the door and I will make sure that like we're hurrying up, we're not like wasting our time, and then once he's done, we're back in. However, like if it's like 8:30 in the morning, I'm letting him out, he's going out, and like I'm doing other things. And if I hear him, I come to the door, but like I'm not waiting by the door for him to do it. So I yes, but no. I mean, there's going to be certain time. I know there's people who let the dog out and then they go shower, do all their stuff, and then they'll come back and get the dog. So the dog is on their time. They are not on the dog's time. And I totally respect that.
You know how I know that people are in the shower? Because they can't hear the dog barking.
Correct.
And that's all here's the
other catch. But here's the other catch too, because like now that I've had a dog for 5 years now, people who don't have dogs, a dog barks one time and you think the world is ending. Like, oh my God, like shut that dog up. Like, God, how do you deal with everything else? My dog can be doing whatever he can be barking, howling, screaming, like knocking stuff over for like an hour. And my girlfriend will be like, does that not bother you? And I will look at her and I'll be like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't even hear what's actually happening. So I think that comes down to like, are you a dog person or are you not a dog person?
There's a difference.
Not even, hold on.
And that's a very valid point.
Let me rephrase that. Not even a dog person. Are you a dog owner? Like, do you live in a house with a dog or don't you?
I totally agree with that point that you just made. But there's a difference between one bark and constant barking. Like there's a dude 10 feet away from me who's trying to stab me. Like, and that is, yes.
No, it's a good point. Any other too late or too early tasks?
No, that's about it.
This is one you and I think we've talked about this, but I don't know if we've ever talked about it on the show. I had in my head, because of my mom, and I love her, but I had in my head that like, you can't have a soda before noon. And I remember being in college, and I remember like one time I walked by like the cafe or whatever, and I looked at my watch and it was like 11:45, and I was like, 15 minutes and I can have a soda. And then I had this epiphany when I was like 19, like, wait a second, like I can have a soda anytime I want. And it's the same thing too. I have that block with like ice cream and desserts. Like if it's like 10 o'clock, like I have this weird thing where like, it's too late for ice cream or what. And then so sometimes I have to like remind myself, like, it's all right. Do you have any of those mental blocks of like, it doesn't really affect anybody else, but you internally can't get past like that idea?
I thought you were going to say there's lots of times I tell you like, you can't have a soda this early. It's too early for that. And you're like, watch me. No, I am a noon soda. Like there's no soda before noon.
Right.
Generally.
But that makes no sense. Like we just
Sure does. Because
no,
you
it
don't.
doesn't.
Yes, you don't, because you don't have soda for breakfast, and you have soda for lunch. Maybe sometimes I did today, and yeah, no, there's no soda. I would never have ice cream before noon. Why would you ever have ice cream in the morning?
No,
But
I'm
there's
with
no.
you.
It's never too late for ice cream. Like that on the back end,
Yeah.
it's endless.
It was. I just had this because I've never drank coffee. I couldn't tell you what it tastes like. I've never had a cup. I never dove into it. But the irony is I would watch, like when I was 18, 19, I'd watch all these kids come to class at like 9 a.m. with like a cup of coffee. And the reason they're like caffeine, like to wake up and like everything else. And it cracked me up because like here I was thinking like, well, I can't have a soda yet, like that. But here everyone around me has a like a caffeinated coffee and it's loaded with sugar and everyone's like ready to roll. But I was like, oh, I can't have a Pepsi yet. Like what a sin.
No,
It just,
no, you
I
can't.
don't know.
I'll
It
tell you
made
the
no
one.
sense.
This is one of the ones of the scarring from the mother that you'd say. My mom is always, still to this day, is one of those, if you take a nap, you won't be able to sleep tonight. And I remember like that was how like you could only nap if you were sick. That was it. If you were healthy, you can't take a nap because then you'll be up all night.
Everyone can take a nap.
So when I got to college, I can remember like I was like one yawn and I was like nap time. Like my impression, I'm taking 2 naps a day, and then and she was right. It would like I wouldn't sleep that much at night, but still, what did I care?
Yeah, it felt good. Pro tip: if your dog likes people, work to have your neighbors meet them. Suddenly, they're going from "there's that dog again" to "sounds like Sparky is awake." Good call. There you go.
Ooh.
You just have to meet the dog. You haven't met the dog, Mark.
I have not. No, I have
not. Can we talk about real quick because we have about 10 minutes left? You and I kind of debated about this a little bit before the show. President Biden came out and made some statements. He went on NBC News. I always forget his first name. The anchor's last name is Holtz.
Joe.
It's good. No. It's Lester.
Not Biden.
Lester.
Sorry.
No. It's Lester Holt.
Lester Holt.
So he had a conversation with Lester Holt. I'm not here to talk about necessarily Russia or Ukraine, but the quick 5-minute debate that you and I were kind of having is President Biden in these statements came out and essentially said that if you're in Ukraine and you're an American, you need to leave now, which is, I totally get that. Good call, all for it. He then went on in the interview to say that if you get stuck or if like you refuse to leave, we will not help you. There will be no U.S. military assistance. Essentially, for the U.S. military to come over or to try to assist you leaving is an act of war. The last thing we need is Russia and America shooting at each other. There are sentiments within that I clearly agree. And I think you know that like I understand those things. What I struggle with in these statements, this will be the second time in less than a year that America and its administration and its president have made statements basically saying that if you are an American and you are stranded, we cannot help you. And I understand the world is changing. I understand that there's context and every situation is different. I cannot remember a time, let alone twice in under a year, where the idea that if you were an American and you were stuck or stranded in a political dispute, that you were like, there was no help. Like the U.S. military could not get involved. The U.S. military could not help you. There was no step B to helping you get out that involved the U.S. military. We talked the Afghanistan. We talked about the amazing story of different people stepping up to get people out when the U.S. military was unable to do it because of what they were being told by the administration. Obviously, this is all hypothetical because maybe no one will be stranded in Ukraine. I just don't think it's a great look that twice in under a year, Americans are being told, if you are stranded, the U.S. military cannot help you.
I think it's much simpler than you think.
Okay.
I think to a degree it's rhetoric because you're right. If they did get stuck, would they help or would they not help is a question. But I think it's almost like saying to kids, the bus leaves at 5. Be on the bus or you can't play.
Sure.
Or the bus leaves at 5. If you don't make it, then don't worry. We'll just swing by and pick you up. and there's a lot less, like they're saying, if you want to play, you need to be on the bus because they don't want an overabundance of people to be late. They want them to take this as serious as possible. But yes, the second part, if there are people that don't leave or can't leave for some reason or whatever the case may be, would we strand them or not? That's a different question. Because
but I think
the
I don't think it
story
is
that you had talked about before.
Yes.
So yes.
I guess what I'm saying, I thought your analogy was great. The part of it though is I don't think this will be the second time where there is no context, meaning like if you're there past a certain day, like we can't help you. And that's just, I don't want to say it's un-American. Like it's cheesy to say that and it's overplayed. Like so many of these mainstream media, like it's un-American I don't want to use that word, but I do think part of being an American is this idea that like, if you are law abiding and you do what you're supposed to do and you end up in a tumultuous situation that is politically driven, there is this concept that the American government and the American military, it may not be right away, it may not be like a week, but like they are going to figure out a way to get you or to save you or to help you. And this is twice in under a year where they have essentially said that is not going to be the case. And so that is very conflicting for me.
But I think it's deeper than that because it's not just about a hassle and it's not just about a nuisance. It's not like, Joey missed the bus. So now mom has to drive him an hour to the game and she has to get there 3 hours earlier than she would have anyway. It's not just a nuisance. If we have to go in and get these people, there's going to be casualties. We're going to lose American servicemen. It's going to cost us a lot of money as a country, but there's also going to be death. And so then the question comes into these people who we've told it's a dire situation. We've told you need to get out. And we've told them if you don't get out, we probably can't come get you. And then for the people, if they stay anyway, then my question is why? And the whole thing is like being an American, there also needs to be some accountability.
Yes, but you're looking at it from the idea that like no one's possibly going to get stuck. Like you're looking at it from the idea that like everybody in Ukraine can just leave now. The same way some people, like I actually thought his administration during Afghanistan just figured like we would just be able to get everybody out. And it very clearly, it was obvious that like some people could not. And again, I hope everyone gets out of Ukraine. We're certainly dealing with a little bit of a hypothetical because it's still early yet.
Right.
However, in your hypothetical, you're saying like, why wouldn't you leave? Why did it? And all I'm saying is in my hypothetical, very rarely do things go perfect. The idea that every single American is going to be able to just get out of Ukraine, or every single person that works with an American force or an American operative or an American citizen in Ukraine is going to be able to just pack up and leave is very, very unlikely. And
I get that. I do.
So now twice in a year, we are being told like that we can't assist you, we can't get you, we can't help you. I'm not going to say it's un-American. I think it'd be taking it out of context to say that. But it is like, it has to be, I would love to ask Jason Fitzgerald this question. This has to be one of the first times in American history where this has happened twice in less than a year. I said to you, I bet you if you went back through the panels of American history, you can't find this happening twice in a decade.
No, and I get it. And the world's different and communication is different. And, I do get all that. It's almost, in some ways, it's similar to hurricane evacuations. And when you tell people you need to get out and you need to get out and you get that, that old fisherman who's like, I've been in my house for 72 years and I'm not going anywhere. And then the hurricane comes and we have to go in and risk lives to rescue them. So there's also a level of, and I get it, why didn't you leave? And for the people who can't or who are stuck, I do understand where you're coming from. And to be like, tough luck, that I'm not sure that that's the American way. I'm with you on that.
Yeah. Real quick before we have to jump off, the Jurassic World trailer came out. You and I love movies. Did you get a chance to see it? You probably haven't even seen it yet. They're wrapping up the like Chris Pratt Jurassic World series. So there was going to be 3 of them, the same way there were 3 original Jurassic Parks. Here's what's cool. If you watch the trailer, remember how I told you Spider-Man was great because they brought back like all the existing characters and everything else. Watch the Jurassic World trailer. They are bringing everybody back for this last movie. Sam Neill is back. Laura Dern is back. The guy who played the Jeff Goldblum is back. They are bringing them all back. It looks awesome.
You know who's not back? Newman.
Who's that? No, Newman is not back. You know what would be great is if they had like a memorial somewhere for him, like just in the background, like just in like food fodder in the back of the screen.
Here's my thought, and this is probably too critical. In my world, there was only one good Jurassic Park movie. The others were just disappointing. And I'll go watch this one because I'll say to myself, well, if they're going to make another one, it must be good. And at the end, I'll be like,
See, I think they are. I just think they're fascinating to see. I think what they're able to do now with the animatronics and the graphics and just it's just neat to see. Were you a dinosaur kid or no?
I think everybody to a degree was a dinosaur kid.
Okay, but you don't remember if you were like really into them or not.
I mean, I wasn't really into them, but I had my plastic dinosaurs, and I had the Brontosaurus, and we had a T-Rex that our first dog chewed the little arms off of. And they're little to begin with, and then there were no more arms anyway. So
there was it was going around on TikTok. There was a teacher who made like a bulletin board, and it was like a comic series with all these different pictures. And it was the dinosaurs like rushing to like wash their hands, and the T-Rex couldn't wash his hands because his hands are too short. And then there were like COVID cells like coming to get him, like as he was like couldn't wash his hands. And it was absolutely fantastic. Anyway, I'm excited for it. I think the whole series, I never thought, I mean, the first movie was good because they went off of the book, right? So they had this guide and they knew what they were doing, and it was a very well thought out idea. Everything after that is just visual fodder. Like, I'm not worried about the storyline.
I'm sorry. Does visual fodder mean crap?
No, it's visual, like it's stimulant, like fodder. Like it's entertaining things to look at. Like, is it necessarily like making the wheels in my brain turn? No, but like, am I happy as I'm seeing it? Sure. And that's what Jurassic Park is really about now. Like, you're never going to top the first one, but like, do I get pumped when I see dinosaurs that look real and in different settings? And like this last one, the idea of it is the dinosaurs have made their way to America, like today's America. And it's about like them trying to coexist and what they're going to do. And just, so to me, like that's visual fodder. I'm all in.
So now my first question, well, I have two questions. Number one, do these dinosaurs bark? And number two, how early? Because that could be a nuisance.
That would be a nightmare. I don't know. Dinosaurs, I mean, they must have made shrills, right? Like they had to make sounds.
You would suspect. And maybe,
I don't know, though. Well, wait, back up a second. Because like reptiles, like when you see a lizard or you see a snake, like I'm trying to think of a reptile that makes a noise. I guess crocodiles make like the hissing, like the reverberation from their throat.
Dinosaurs would be a lot less cool if they didn't like.
But see, I guess, okay, so now I'm like really showing how smart I am because I just compared them to lizards, but I guess dinosaurs are more like birds. There were like birds are the descendants of dinosaurs. So it wouldn't be comparing them to lizards. It would be comparing them to birds, and birds make all sorts of noises.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard that theory too, but they certainly look more lizardish than birdish. At least, the ones that don't fly. So I'm probably being too harsh on them. I felt the same way about Pirates of the Caribbean. I thought the first one was great. And then after that, I thought they were just tolerable.
Sure.
And they're not all, like I think every old Star Wars person will tell you that Empire was the best. From the Rocky, obviously the first Rocky was great, but Chris Massey and I talk about this all the time, how Rocky 3 is entertaining as all get out. Rocky 4 with the Russian was great until he solved the Cold War. Rocky Balboa was great. So I understand the fact they're never the original, but they're still, really entertaining in their own way. And I just don't think the Jurassic series has done it, but maybe they did. Maybe the first one was just so good, but you'd say the same thing about Rocky, I would think. I think you'd say the same thing about Star Wars. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think there's a visual aspect to this one that you can't compete with. I think these movies could be absolute garbage, but the visual aspect of seeing the dinosaurs in there, I still think they would be successful.
I should probably watch them all again just to get myself
I didn't love
indoctrinated.
So Jurassic Park 1, obviously classic. Jurassic Park 2, I didn't love. Jurassic Park 3, I enjoyed. And then when they got into the Jurassic Worlds with Chris Pratt, I have enjoyed every single one of the Jurassic World ones. Not loved. I'm not saying they're classics, but I've enjoyed every single one.
Yeah, I don't know if any of them were painful, really.
No.
But I didn't think I liked 3. Wasn't the one with 3 when they found the phone in the dinosaur crap?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'll have to watch that one again then if you say it's good. I thought it was bad.
I enjoyed it. Again, it can't be bad because your worst case scenario is you're watching realistic dinosaurs like on the screen. Like that's your worst case scenario. That's the worst case scenario is dinosaurs.
The worst case scenario is I just wasted 2 hours and I wasn't entertained at all. That's the worst case scenario.
Oh, you're getting grumpy in your old age.
Thank you. I'm not.
Thank you for watching the Midday Show. Thank you to Weiss Markets for being our sponsor. And be sure to go to NorthcentralPa.com for all of your local news. Nothing? Did I upset you? I didn't want to upset you on your Friday. I apologize.
No, I'm just trying to think. I know there's a big MMA card on Saturday night, and then obviously the Super Bowl on Sunday. Yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to a Sunday of a whole lot of nothing except pregame show. Hopefully, I think the game's going to be good. I think halftime's going to be I think people will be glued to halftime. And maybe just because you guys talked about it yesterday, the over-under on accidental F-bombs may be the most entertaining thing. That may be it. That may be even – I do want to ask you this, and I want you on the record. National anthem, are you going over or under, or didn't you see the number yet?
I almost always go over because until they're out there singing, you just like it always. I feel like they always draw it out longer once they're going instead of going shorter. Very rarely is the national anthem under.
I don't even know who is singing it this year. Do you know?
I'll have to look it up. I don't know for sure who it is.
Okay,
not Eminem.
So you're from a veteran guy of this, and if you didn't watch the show yesterday, Jeff says have everyone bet on the length of the national anthem, either over or under, and you will get the crowd. It's like that action scene at the beginning of the movie with shooting and death. Like people will be engrossed right away.
Get the iPad out, put the timer up by the TV so everyone can see it, and as soon as they start singing, hit it, and then watch people lose their mind.
That's it. But does this send you into like a downward spiral if you lose before the game even started?
No, because now you're hopeful that the game will get you going again. Now you're really invested. You need a win. You're really invested.
You need to rally. You need to rally. It is hard to be losing before the kickoff, but you have found a way.
Yes, like you really, really need the football game to go your way now. So you're uber invested into it now. This weekend, because you're going to be busy prepping for Valentine's Day. Obviously the Super Bowl.
Monday. We will have our Valentine's Day expertise come Monday.
On Monday. And then I really want to. I haven't talked to my girlfriend about this yet. I really want to sneak to the movies because I want to there's a movie called Moonfall. We may have talked about it at one point. It has Halle Berry. I believe it's a Roland Emmerich. He does all the apocalypse movies. It's going to be awful. It's not going to be a good movie. However, it is the big apocalyptic set. It's a bucket of popcorn. I don't want to think. I'm just staring at cool stuff. So I do want to, at some point, I want to sneak to the theater and see Moonfall too. So it is it's a busy, a lot of weekends. It's you're finding stuff to do between Moonfall, Super Bowl, Valentine's Day, all that stuff. It's a full weekend without trying.
All right. I've put my context clues together here. Halle Berry, must see. It's going to be bad. She's going to be naked in it, right? Is that already been leaked?
I doubt she'll be naked in it. I will say this.
Then why must you see a bad movie?
Because it's Roland Emmerich, it's like an apocalyptic setting. There's gonna be cool things on the screen. It's not gonna be an award-winning film, but it is going to be like a hyperactive, like stuff blowing up, things falling apart. So I'm excited for that.
No, and I figured it out before I even, like, you're lowering your expectations. You're going in, you've told yourself, I know it's not going to be great, but it's going to be cool, whatever. So you've set the bar low, and now you will enjoy it more. Well done.
I think I've told you before, one of my favorite genres is like the apocalyptic. I like the Armageddon, Hunger Games, like anything 2012, anything that's kind of like apocalyptic and people are trying to survive and stuff like that. For whatever reason, it like hits home. Like I'm good. Like I could watch all of that stuff all day. So this is just another example of that. I know it's not going to be award winning. I'm not going to learn anything that I don't already know, but I'm gonna enjoy it, so I'm excited for that reason.
No, but I'm being totally serious with that one, because we've talked about when someone tells you a movie's the greatest movie of all time, and then you're just like, yeah, I mean, it was good. A lot of it is your preconceived notions, and if you can go in thinking, yeah, I'm sure it's all right, you've given yourself a much better opportunity to enjoy it than if you go in expecting an all-timer. Yeah. And then, then if the movie ends up being like a B+, you're disappointed, as opposed to if you go in expecting a C- and you get a B+ and you're thrilled.
Yes. The other aspect of it, and you know this about me, I'm getting to the point where I know directors and I know, like, I understand their catalog and I know what's coming up, and I'm able to kind of trend like, okay, this director clearly does things that I like. This director does not, and different. So Roland Emmerich is one of those where, like, he doesn't make fantastic movies, but every movie he makes, I have enjoyed. So because it's a Roland Emmerich film, I feel like I will be satisfied, even though I know it's not going to be this like blockbuster, like award-winning film. So that helps.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
And you have,
that helps too.
And you've set yourself up for success. You will enjoy it.
I think so. Bucket of popcorn. And this, I've only been to the movie theaters because you and I talked about, like, if people would ever go back, like a year and a half ago. I went to see the Spider-Man and I loved being in the theater. Loved it. And so I'm kind of excited to go back. And this is a bigger screen movie. This is something that certainly doesn't feel as great on your phone or on a tablet. Right. So it's a good excuse to go back to the movie theater. And
I saw, what was it? Jungle Cruise, the one with The Rock. And I saw that. And I haven't been back many times either. But there is still, you can't replace the theater experience. You just can't.
No. Well, I mean, another Jurassic World is another good example of that. Like, I will go to the theater to see Jurassic World. I need the dinosaurs to be as big as humanly possible when I watch it.
And I was going to say, I need to wait and get your critique on it. But as long as there are big dinosaurs, you're going to say thumbs up. And I'm going to say, I'm a little deeper than that. I need a little more than that.
What I'm going to say is that if you said, like, out of 5 stars, if there are realistic looking dinosaurs on the screen doing cool dinosaur things, I mean, it's 2.5 minimum. You've already won the battle just having dinosaurs doing cool stuff. So it's that simple.
I have had many people roll their eyes at me in life. I think you are the first male that has ever rolled their eyes.
Well, in my defense, I've been doing this 5 days a week for the last year and a half. I feel like I've earned it. Have I earned it?
Yes, you have. I totally agree.
One last time, thank you to Weiss Markets. Be sure to go to NorthcentralPa.com for all of your local news.
We'll see you.
That's good.
No barking.
I'm Jeff Everett. He is Mark Messina, and we will see you next week.